deeper, right, into the aspects of different ways of like orchestrating this app. And I think you're talking about some drawbacks here, right? And the end, Christian wants to cover that. Like, what's
Yeah, yeah.
the drawback
What's
here?
Yeah, so when the and we actually discussed the parts of this in the meeting I had before this one. It was the Argo contributors meeting. But so the drop, so like the introduction is really the talks about how an Argo CD application like orchestrates that application, but it has like it has no indication of what's going on in another application. And the immediate drawback when someone like starts with Argo CD, when you're working with an application, is like it just applies things, right? So I should like find a video of this long time ago. I had Alex M from, at that time he was at Intuit, and Henrik from Intuit come on, and basically they said, yeah, Argo CD is basically kubectl. Like we they basically said like, yeah, like they and like however Kubernetes behaves is how Argo CD is going to behave. So I think in this chapter, and for everyone watching this later, like just keep that in mind, right? Because sometimes it's like, why does Argo CD do that? And it's like, well, the actual question is, why does Kubernetes do that? Is the actual question. So really, the drawback is like Argo CD does a kubectl apply, right? And so there's no like method of like by default to like put things in order, right? Like if you try to apply a pod with a namespace field before you apply the namespace, it's gonna error out, because it's gonna say, well, pod can't find the namespace, and then you have to run the command again, and then all of a sudden it works, right? And so so that's really like the generically, I want to say in Argo CD, the drawbacks for the application is that it applies the manifest as is, meaning like garbage in, garbage out. What you give it is what it's gonna do. And so one of the things is like the enhancements that happened early on with Argo CD is that the ability to add ability to define sequence, right? Sequentially.
Well, before we jump to solutions, let's talk a little bit more about the problem. Andy, any thoughts before I jump in with my shotgun on this on like there should not be order in the world of Kubernetes? But go ahead, Andy. Do you have any opinions on this?
I still think there should be some order because there is some need for it. Some applications require it. You can do your best to go ahead and work around them, but in the end, think about a good common use case is I have a database and I have an application. Without the database, you have no application.
Okay.
Yeah.
You can deploy them in different order, and they should be resilient enough that you deploy the application, it waits for the database starts first, second. That's but so I'll go with my shotgun. So my shotgun violence choice, right? Since we're recording is like Kubernetes, right? That the thing that I love of Kubernetes is that everything should be resilient. That if something dies in the middle of the application, like your solution is composed of like 4 items. If one of them dies in the middle of the night, the other components that depend on that component will like, if that thing will come back, right? Thinking about pods, right? In terms of just like applications, the containers.
I'll play devil's advocate. I have many customers who have applications that are provided to them by vendors.
That's what I was going to go down into, like the corner cases, Andy. So before the violence.
Before the violence. I actually cover that a little bit like later on in this chapter about like methods, right? Like the so like
that's solving the issue. Like I'm just trying to put the statement, right? Like in an ideal situation, right?
Yeah.
If you have the opportunity and you own all the content of the applications, then you should at least get to that 99% that you don't care about order, deploying things in order, or like if things die, then stops things working, or if something dies and it comes back, then you need to restart because the thing that you depend on died and it came back. Like that resiliency type of aspect of deploying things in outer order, that should be okay. The only thing I think in Kubernetes that absolutely I think that I'm trying to think out of my that it needs to be in order is the namespace, right? You cannot deploy something in there the namespace is something that is assumed to be created beforehand by some other team another time, and then you deploy things in the namespace. So that namespace also is also something that comes a lot in Argo CD of like, do I create the namespace? Who creates the namespace? Who I created needs to be created first. Absolutely needs to be created first before I put things inside. Saying that, Andy is correct 100%, is when you have applications or components that are not owned by you, that are given to you by third-party open source or vendor or another team, and they don't have that 100% guarantee or resiliency type of thing, then you have to work around like, yeah, I'm going to do ordering like kubectl apply, check that it's healthy. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. And then deploy kubectl apply the next thing, check that it works and it's ready. And then kubectl apply the next thing and check that it's healthy, right? And then at the end of all those kubectl applies, you leave the system and hope that if any components died in the middle of the night, like they will satisfy itself, but your deployment task is done. You can go to bed. That it's not a deployment problem, and it's like a runtime problem. So I think this chapter is good because Andy and Christian shows how to address ordering because you need it, right? We just agree that we need it. And the second thing I mentioned was check and health. Like you cannot continue to the next component. You should not until the first component is good and healthy, right? And then when you're at the end, maybe at the end, you go back and check that my 5 components overall, because of the solution of 5 components, at health and check and healthy. Did that get you in the middle ground, Andy, or are you still not satisfied?
That's fine. I mean, it's always give and take. You always, and that's half the job of Kubernetes, is being able to get just enough and then be able to, in many ways, work around it. And you can use automation to do so. You can go ahead and you can use tools like Argo. You can use other tools to be able to help get you over the finish line.
Yeah, and the other thing I want to say, like Andy said, is at the end of the day, it doesn't matter that much because people that don't use GitOps, what do? They don't use Kubernetes. Like, yeah, use a script, use a bash script, use Jenkins, use CI/CD pipelines, right? Do imperative pipelines that do steps in order. That's fine. That's perfectly fine, right? It's just that that Christian mentioned is like when people jump from that world to Argo CD, they think they have that by design. Like Argo has that out of the question by design. Like it will like know by the art of magic that the dependency tree of these things, right, Christian?
Yeah, exactly. That's like the that there's no magic and there's a lot of trade-offs, and kind of like what Andy says, and that's kind of like the thing, right? It's like you just kind of have to know where your start point is and know what your options are, and depending on your workload, you're going to choose one or a mix of things. You know,
and the venture consistent, right? You also mentioned the venture consistent. Like sometimes you deploy something, you have to wait.
Yeah.
And wait.
Well, and
not
well,
time
like,
out or even retry. Even you have to force the retry.
Yeah. So there's the thing of retries in Argo CD, right? Which I think we discussed a few times, where it's like you have to set up, like there's like a lot of things that you need to think of, and what you know, some prerequisites and like retries, and there's just like some things like and eventual consistency is like one of the things that you can rely on, right? Like
you have a talk, right?
Like,
you have I think you have a talk or YouTube. I think maybe you did 2 YouTubes or a blog post of like all the ways that we can do ordering, right? Maybe it was preparing for this book or something.
Yeah, exactly. And it's also like an eventual consistency is like one of the things that you can use, and like you know, and as we go on, you'll see like how you can get really close to the visual consistency, and we actually talked about this like literally like last hour, because like Michael Crenshaw, who's like the Argo CD lead, is like a big fan of eventual consistency.
Me too.
Yeah. Only because Argo CD is written for Kubernetes, and Kubernetes, the idea is eventual consistency. So it's like, you know, like you can you know, hem and haw about like, oh, legacy apps and blah blah blah. It's like, well, like if you're not leveraging the platform to do what it's supposed to do, then you know, then then like stay on VMs. Like you know what I mean? Like it's kind of like eventually you have
Violence.
to.
Like he chose violence.
Yeah,
Like me. Yeah.
yeah. Like eventually you have to like be violent with it, right? But luckily Argo has like these things that you can add and
Yeah, so this is
do
a
ordering
signal, right?
to help you out.
This
Yeah.
is the signal sync wave. So before we jump into explaining what sync wave is, Sebi, you had a question?
Yeah, but there are certain things that can't be fixed with eventual consistency clearly. So throwing Kubernetes and Argo CD at every problem is, I don't think it's helpful as well. That's what we've done in, I don't know, for a while. But then, yeah.
You have a good one. One that just I thought about, maybe I can mention is one that people like. I just like, well, it's obvious that you're going to create the secrets before you use Argo CD to deploy this stuff, and people look at me like, huh? Like, what do you mean create the secrets? Like, you don't put the secrets in Git, so something needs to create the secrets beforehand. So you do kubectl apply secrets, and people are like, but I want to use Argo CD because I want to use Argo CD for everything. Like, no, you don't have to use Argo CD for everything. Just somebody, the security team, whoever has like the secrets to the kingdom, creates the secrets and put them in the cluster and doesn't give it to you. It give it to like the service account to get access to it, or the AI role, but not you, human being. And then you go and deploy your app, and then your service account is the only one that get access to that secret. And that's where people also get confused. So that there's things that actually need to be done for purpose behind. But the good thing is, with projects like external secret operator and sharing secrets from one namespace to another namespace with external secret operator, and using secrets as mount points, then you can work a little bit about like dealing with secret locations, right, and ordering on that. What your opinion on secrets, Andy, on like obviousness or like best practice, or people are aware like secret is something that sometimes when you get to the deployment, it already has to be in the system and not deal with GitOps.
I'll go ahead and I'll just promote my book, Kubernetes Secrets, that I wrote already.
Yep.
But anyways,
and we covered that. We covered that one here, right, Sebi? I think we did one day on that one, I believe.
Yeah.
Many years. I think it was.
Yeah,
it was a couple years ago. Yeah. I mean, it always comes down to, there are a number of different ways you can manage secrets. So many different ways. External secrets is one of them. Secrets to our CSI driver is another one. You then have sealed secrets. I mean, there's a million different ways you want to do it. And I always start with, what does your organization actually require? Because you can go ahead and engineer the most complex scenario, but is it really needed? Just take a step back, and then you're going to spend longer trying to figure out how to secure your environment when you don't really need to. I mean, yes, I'm always in, let's make it as secure as possible, but one thing I don't want you all to do is don't do security feeder. Don't just go ahead and try to make yourself appear to be secure when you're really not. I.e., don't go ahead and encode a secret 5,000 times. That's not going to be helpful.
I agree. Yeah, that's the thought with secrets. And also, I've come a lot on like secrets as like you pointers of the secrets, right? With your orchestration and deployment, not the actual secret. You put pointers. And those type of things. I'm not going to go into like AWS and EKS implementation, but let's talk about sync waves. This is the chapter we talk about sync waves later. So Joe, quickly about sync waves. So sync waves is something that, also to clarify to people, is this annotation that you put into the resources view from one application, one Argo CD application, not across Argo CD applications. That's something to take into account. Like if you put the sync waves across application, it's not, so it's like from the one point of view of like one application, all the resources included in that one application. Then you can say, hey, Argo, here's a signal for you to deploy something. I believe it's like deploy something and check that it's healthy before moving to the next one. So you can put an annotation sync wave equals numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 7. The default value for this, I believe, is 0, right, Christian and Andy? And you can use negative numbers to say, hey, I can just put a few things that absolutely need to be before you deploy everything else are going to put in negative numbers. Is that that's a strategy that I used. I love negative numbers.
Yeah, and you basically hit the nail on the head, right? Like if you don't put the annotation, it's gonna assume you want sync wave 0. So I think Raymond, as I said, pro tip is negative sync waves,
We
right?
put that in the docs highlighted. Like that's a pro tip that I just learned from, like, didn't invent it. Like I learned from, like,
Yeah.
maybe from you or somebody or me asking in Slack.
Yeah. So like, well, because like with the negative, we should probably put in the docs. It's like because what ends up happening is if you want, like, in general, because like what you said, like the happy path is eventual consistency and everything gets applied all at once. So like you take your exceptions and then you put in like negative sync waves to them, right? And then so basically you don't have to remember to annotate everything, only annotate the things that you want to happen, like absolutely want to happen in a specific order before anything else, right? And so like it's like that's kind of like the pro tip, right? Like Raymond was saying, like, yeah, like just put negative, right? Like basically what I always put, like in this is kind of like a simple example, kind of a dumb example if you think about it, but like
Negative one and namespace.
Yeah, like namespace -1 and everything else just kind of just leave it, right?
Me
Like
too. Me too.
right? So like that's kind of like what I.
But
what
the
you
thing
would
is,
do.
and also, I think this chapter we may take 2 days. I don't know, but because I have a lot of questions for you, for Christian and Andy, is so this is good when Argo CD knows this that you own this namespace, like these resources, and it's easy to put that notation. There's situations where, like, you tell Argo CD deploy this thing, and this thing is a Helm chart. Like I cannot go to every Helm resource that is generated by the Helm resource and put a different sync wave because I want them to install in order. So maybe for Andy and you also, now that I think about it, like when you use Helm install, like who decides the order? Like when you do install, maybe installs five or 10 things. Like, and Helm is a CLI. How do you tell Helm, hey, you have to install these things in order? Does Helm has a way of like sync waves, Andy?
So yes, there's 2 things. One, there is a concept of hooks in Helm. However, when you install Helm via Argo, you can use the Argo CD annotations, and it applies and obliges to those, and they're more powerful than Helm sync waves.
Well, how do you do that? Like, I don't own the Helm. How do I add a sync wave annotation to a Helm generated resource?
What do you mean? You can just go ahead and add, assuming your Helm chart supports the ability to add annotations, you just go ahead and you add.
That's the key aspect. Some Helm charts are not written properly, and a lot of them don't allow me to add extra annotations. But most of them today, I think 2025, we can say they do, right?
So in the times that you don't have the ability, this is where I use the Helm inflator with customize, and you can get around that.
And can you expand a little bit, like the process, not the specific, but the.
Yeah, so Helm inflator is a capability of customize where you can use Helm charts via customize, and with customize, you have the ability to basically manage any aspect of an application.
Yeah, they need to so you can use customize to. There's different ways to do it. Like you can tell customer, here's a Helm chart to be aware for you to deploy, and customize will inflate and things. That doesn't work for everything because you have things like authentication of a Helm chart that is in OCR or OCI. So customize cannot log in to things. But also there's another aspect of like telling Argo CD, go ahead and run Helm and then pipe that through customize, right? And then customize would just like patch and edit those things that you do. But at the same, it's a different way of doing it. But yeah, that's the aspect. And the other thing that you mentioned is Helm has these hooks that will tell a signal to Helm CLI, install these things in the specific order. And those signals, Argo CD is aware of them and respect them.
Say it one more time.
You said that when I do Helm install, that Helm has some thing, I don't know if it was hooks, that will tell the order.
There is no Helm install.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to get to.
But remember, all you're doing is you're creating Argo CD resources, so Argo will manage all the ordering.
Yeah. So that's what I wanted to be a distinct thing that I wanted to bring up, of like for people that are not aware, like you said, like everybody's aware. Argo CD doesn't do a Helm install. A lot of people think that it does. And that's why they will think that when you do Argo CD Helm, you deploy a Helm chart with Argo CD, it will do the process of Helm install and respect the ordering, but it doesn't actually respect it, right? So that's why you need to go into the sync wave additions for augmenting that process to get the right order when you deploy a Helm chart. I don't know if that summarized the conversation. We ended there.
Yeah, pretty good.
Okay. And that's, you want to have some history or debates, go to Slack, Control F, and search a lot of discussions on this. We should do a knowledge base of all the Slack conversations.
Yeah. We should for sure.
So the next thing is probes. There's these probes. I think you're referring to this thing. I was thinking, I was reading this, was going to talk about Argo CD health checks, but this is actually probes. Why probes are important? Because when Argo CD deploys something, in this case, we're referring to pods. It could be a job, it could be stateful set, it could be a deployment, a replica set, replica controller. Kubernetes will give you back a status like this thing is ready equals true, but not like ready to receive traffic kind of networking. Like, is that correct?
Yeah.
I'm a little bit like, can you clarify, unpack that here?
Yeah. So ultimately, and you were alluding to it a little bit, but ultimately Argo CD relies on the health status of Kubernetes, right? So whatever Kubernetes health reports is what Argo is going to use to determine whether or not your application is healthy. And your application is healthy is just an aggregate of the health status of all the objects that it's managing, right? So it's your application's healthy when like the service deployment and like ingress, for example, gets it's all the statuses equal healthy or like synced or ready or whatever, then Argo CD marks the entire application.
The ready equals true, the condition,
yeah,
and the status, but not ready. Like, this is what I was trying to get to. Like, a application can be happy and ready, be happy and healthy and everything just with the liveness probe, but the readiness probe is more of a Kubernetes for a service. Is the Argo CD has extra checks on pods and deployments for the readiness or not?
No, so it'll.
I don't think so, because it will block it from deploying the next thing, right?
So, exactly. So this is what ends up happening, right? Like if I didn't have the readiness and the liveness probe, as soon as like in this example, as soon as the MySQL pod is up, is basically like
running,
the container's running, Argo CD will mark that as healthy. But it may not be necessarily ready to.
It takes time.
It takes time. Yeah. Especially like if you're old school running a big Java application, right? Like it just kind of takes time for things to like spin up.
Or download things, download files, or download models, AI models, and it takes a day.
Yeah, exactly. Like it just takes like, a long time, right? Like it does whatever it needs to do. So adding these Kubernetes kind of probes, right? Like both readiness and liveness probe for things helps Argo CD, because then Kubernetes won't mark the thing as like ready or like basically healthy until these probes are finished. Once those probes is finished, then then Argo CD will be like, okay, now it's ready. So this is like generic Kubernetes best practices. But it helps Argo CD, it helps in general. This used to be more important, I think, like a while ago when like mentioning this used to be a while ago when Kubernetes was still kind of new, because like it was just still new. I think most people nowadays are just setting up probes. I think people have cut themselves and bruised themselves.
And Gen AI is regenerating them, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Like, exactly.
So to end here is, I mean, the nuances or the corner case is, if you're deploying a pod that has liveness and even readiness, and it takes a while to be ready, and you have the next component is a pod that like does access that service with the core HTTP, and it's not ready, it will fail because Argo CD is not waiting for the readiness. Like it's just waiting for the liveness. So just be aware that the readiness is not important for Argo CD. The one that is important is LiveProbe. But Christian, if I have the situation that I have to do something custom, it's like, no, I really want you to check the readiness status condition before you move to the next thing. We have what? Health checks and Lua, right?
Yeah. So then Argo CD has its so you also again alluded to it. Argo CD also has its own health check, right? Like beyond just the standard Kubernetes. So like your the natural question is like, well, what's the difference between the Kubernetes health check and the Argo CD health check? Argo CD uses other things in terms of like you can get like status from fields and specific fields in Kubernetes. So things like go just beyond just kind of the standard Kubernetes health checks. One of the things I think the most common one, and this is the one that's already built in, but before the most common one was cert manager, right? Like you want another one's ingress. Like I didn't know that like
the URL is field, right?
Yeah.
The status,
Yeah, the
or
URL
the host
field
name,
is
or
yeah.
the like.
Yeah,
I don't want to
exactly.
continue to have a URL, right? And the only thing,
Yeah.
the only way that I know ingress has the load balancer took it's 3 minutes to be created and have a valid endpoint that I can hit. It's like that status is there. That string is there.
Yeah, exactly. And so this is another thing, and then this is another thing that trips people up, and it's because I think mostly nowadays there's a lot already built into Argo.
And
if
when
you
say
find
build
one,
to Argo,
yeah.
is like in the GitHub repo, there's a folder that the community over the last, 6 years have put all their Lua checks for all the type of open source projects and custom things, and that Argo CD already comes embedded with all that Lua script things that probably you are covered. But if you're not covered, then you have to do this. What you show here in the book is like add your own thing. Maybe you're writing your own controller. But if you're writing your own controller, maybe you should use the condition names that is the normal ones, like the ready and those type of things. But if it's like a combination of things, or where I have done it, it's like Kubernetes resource orchestration, that things that you see like Crow, ACK, Crossplane, that I need to orchestrate like until the AN row is ready and the S3 is created. Don't do this thing, right? Maybe I can check. I'll be checking 2 components. I don't know if you can check 2 components. I think it's only one.
It's
object.
group,
one object
kind,
one object, right?
Yeah, it's group kind. And then the script.
And Lua is not the to tell you the truth, right? It is what it is. Lua is a scripting language. Is something that is interpreted. Be careful what you put there. It can cause CPUs. It can cause errors. It's difficult to debug. It's easy to debug. I cannot say it's easy to debug or write these things. Sometimes now AI is helping a little bit to write these type of things, but I used to do a lot of this for Istio, Lua writing, because Envoy, right?
This goes back in time. Christian, I used to do this with 3Scale.
3Scale also
with 3Scale, yeah.
Oh, okay. 3Scale, for those that don't know, is a API gateway offering from Red Hat, right?
Yeah.
Or was before Red Hat was an acquisition or something like that. So yeah, networking policies, right, to manage headers. Let me see if there's any questions in the chat, or maybe the chat is more interesting than the conversation that we're having. Sync policies, create namespace. There was Raymond put something about create namespace sync policy. That's newage in Argo CD, right? That you can tell it like, hey, I'm going to deploy something, but if the namespace is not created, go ahead and create it for me. I don't have to include the namespace, the specific namespace YAML, right, Christian? That's also pro tip.
That I'm a big fan. That's one thing. Like I'm a really, really big fan. This is something, funnily enough, that me and Gerald Noon from Red Hat always disagree on. He, for some reason, loves to manage the namespaces.
I'm Christian then.
I am on the team of like no, like and you can add like
annotations and labels as part of your application. It's so nice now.
Yeah. It's so nice now. Yeah, before, like I would say, like someone would have an argument because you couldn't manage labels and annotations, but now you can with Argo CD.
Yes.
Now you can. Before you couldn't.
The namespace and annotations of the namespace. What you're referring to. I don't know if you covered that specific. It's interesting that we can debate that for like another hour because we took time to get agreement. And there's still some corner cases that people get burned, that they have 2 applications that create the namespace, and then one of the applications would delete the namespace, and the other application will go crazy because 2 applications are creating namespace just in case, because they're deploying 2 components into the same namespace, so 2 Argo apps. So who is the owner of the namespace then?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
What do you recommend, Christian?
The owner of the namespace. Yeah, that's
I have Cube
That's a good
system.
question.
I have Cube system
Yeah.
and I deploy my production Helm charts. Who's the owner?
What I typically do is
Yeah.
I usually will have a cluster level Argo that usually manages namespace management.
Yep.
That's the answer.
And in many cases, you don't even use the create
Nope.
namespace because it's already
Nope.
provisioned.
Because it's
That's
already
why.
there.
That's why I never use it, Christian. I'm a fan, but
Yeah.
I don't use it because
Exactly.
in
Yeah. I
enterprise
like the
systems,
feature.
right? Yeah, it's a nice feature. Yeah.
It's like the cup holder cooler underneath the cup holder. It's a nice feature. I
Or
never
the
use it.
cigarette lighter.
I think this is an internal baseball, right? There's number of features, right, that are useful for. I'm going to say one that may be controversial. Useful for maybe for demos or teaching or concepts or POCs, and then they should not be used in enterprise, right? In full deployment production systems. And this might be one of them. Another one is I'm Mr. Camp of you never delete resources. Like if you remove the Argo app, you never remove the resources, because in production, if you remove something and you have the finalizers annotation, which people love for demos, where like I can deploy all this stuff, and in the end of the demo, like I can clean my cluster because I don't want to spend more money. In production, like I have that notation on there. We just went down in the bank for 3 days because we put this annotation everywhere because the demo was cool to clean everything. So I'm Mr. Camp of like delete stuff manually on purpose and have a second person watch you, right? So I don't know
about third person with a stick.
Yeah, that's like another. You're gonna say we can debate for an hour about setting finalizers on your Argo CD application. I'm actually with you, Carlos. I'm a fan of not setting the finalizers. Like if I delete an application, it just deletes the application, but the resources stay there, and I go in and manually create it. Delete it.
That's a default behavior for application sets, I think.
Yeah.
Or not. I have to double check.
No. Yeah. So like you would have
I
to
put the value in there explicit because I can never remember what's the default. If I remove the application sets, the Argo CD apps, they remove the Argo app, but don't remove the resources created by the application set.
Yeah, only if it'll delete the application, but as long as not that's actually a good question. I need to relook at that up because
I got burned.
Yeah,
I got burned.
Yeah, I got burned too. Yeah, like a few times doing.
I think we are over time. What do you guys think if we keep the chapter for next?
Oh yeah, we haven't even gotten to the meat and potatoes of this chapter.
And quick feedback from people that are still around. There's 15 people. Like, you like this type of deep conversation or rabbit hole, or like you want to get like fluffy of like, oh, there's things I just go online and like look it up. Sevi, what do you think?
Let's ask our.
Or maybe people are lost and they don't know what lingo we're talking.
I don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
Since you asked, I love this stuff, and
why?
I don't know that the rest of the audience does, because it's this level of detail that gives me insights into what makes sense for what I want to do. And,
I'll jump in real quick and mention that I like this, by the way, the deep dives. Like, I don't understand everything that you guys are saying, all the lingo, but it's stuff that it gives us words that we can Google later or ask ChatGPT later, right?
I think a lot of it comes down to, this is insider's baseball. As I mentioned earlier, this is basically the kind of the locker room talk, insiders, and we're happy to share because almost everyone here who's just, speaking has been there, has seen it, the good, the bad, the ugly. There's been a lot of ugly, I promise you. It's not all, we all like to look good on the stage, but it's really ugly under the covers at many times. But that's where we work together as a community and look at the challenges and work together to come up with solutions.
Okay, so we'll keep it. We'll try our best to not have a lot of lingo, but if people like the inside baseball conversation and production versus not production, nice to have, and the not always happy path, like Andy was saying. Like, I'm dealing with systems and customers that they want to run 50,000 Argo CD applications with one Argo CD instance, right? 100 clusters full with one Argo CD instance. So that's kind of like my worriness about these things, and also like the other aspect. But that's scalability. Like, that's not like functionality, but that the security aspect is another one that is a deal in the past a lot on with deploying these systems. So okay, thank you so much. 15 people stay overtime. I appreciate all the people that commented. Jack, Raymond, Matt. As always, super grateful for Christian and Andy's time for writing the book, and also be patient with my bad humor on these episodes. But I try to bring some lights to this if people are watching or just listening. So thank you so much. I'm happy to be back. And then let's pick up this chapter. I really like this chapter. We can talk about a lot, because this is the chapter about Argo applications at scale. So I think it's worth taking more time and more questions. So Jack, bring questions next time. Okay. I just think you're mute,
You
Jack.
got stuck.
I have questions. So next time, I'm just afraid every question takes 15 minutes. I'm reluctant to ask questions because I want to hear the material.
Okay, we'll do a balance. We're like, just ask the question, and we'll try to.
Jack,
no questions are bad. Just bring
If
it.
you have the opportunity, Jack, just continue to ask questions in the Slack channel that we have.
Okay.
Yeah.
Also,
Thank you.
in the Slack channel. Yep.
Thank you.
Okay.
Love asking conversations. Thanks for joining, everybody,
Yeah,
and
thank you
staying
so
this
much.
long. Yeah, hope to see you next week.
Yeah,
And thank you,
cheers.
Christian, Andrew. Always a pleasure. And Carlos, cheers.
Yep.
Cheers,
Bye,
all.
guys.
Yeah.
See you next
Adios.
week. Bye.